Okay, so basically right now I'm going to, we're just going to take a random trade, okay? So one thing we're going to look for, the bid price and the offer price, okay? So let's say we go ahead and click on, okay, so the indicative is 94386, okay? So let's go ahead and say it'll be, okay, so this is a good like middle ground, right? So 9438393, okay, so 94.4, okay? So you click on it, right? And here's your ticket, okay? So now what you're going to do is you will notice after this loads, so it tells you it expires in 5 hours and 17 minutes, and it says the Nadex indicative index is 94.41. So right now, if you put a call, you'd be in the money. So you can actually call it right now in the money, right? So if you look at the offer, you would be paying $56 per contract, okay? So one thing I've noticed is that on Nadex, it's between $0 and $100 in terms of whatever profit you can make, okay? So for instance, let's say I were to click buy one contract, okay? And let's say I wanted to pay $55 for it, okay? I would pay $55 for the contract, and the most return I could make if I was in the money at the end of expiry is $45. So if you add 55 plus 44, it equals 100. So the most, you're working in a $100 bracket, okay? So if that makes sense, great. If not, basically think that whatever price this is on the buy, right? So if you're calling, the most money you can make is the difference between whatever you're paying for it and 100, okay? So right now the market says 56, right? So it's selling for 56.50. So if I were to hit this right now at a price of 55, I wouldn't purchase it. But now so what would happen was I could place the order and it wouldn't purchase it until the market went back down to 55, right? So you can actually adjust your price. So you can say, hey, listen, I'm not willing to pay $56.50 for it. I'm willing to pay $50 for it, okay? So if you paid 50, the most you can make is 50. So that's how you can kind of like, focus on the risk and how much you're willing to put in and, for risk versus return, right? So that's pretty straightforward for the calls, right? So let's say some people are like, well, $50, that's not a lot of money. Okay, so what you do is you purchase more options, right? More contracts. So let's say I wanted to purchase 10 contracts. So I would actually spend $50 per contract times 10. That's $500, right? So the max I can make is $500. Let's say the market's trading for $54, okay? Let's say I purchased for $54, 10 contracts for $54, that's $540. So the most I can make at the end of expiry is $460. But one thing with Nadex is you can actually short sell. So I'll actually explain that in a second. So hopefully this makes sense. You can purchase 100 contracts at $54 a contract. So you'd spend $5,400, and the most you can get back is $4,600. And that's pretty much, that's how it works. And I've seen the maximum you can spend is $100,000 in terms of purchasing or actually not purchasing, but when you compare the max loss versus the max profit, the most I've seen you be able to purchase is total when these are added together is $100,000. Okay, so if I bought 1,000 contracts at $54, right? Then I'd spend $54,000, and the most I can make back was $46,000. But if you add those together, that's $100,000. And then when I put, let's say, I wanted to buy 1,001, it won't let me. It says max is 1,000. So the max I've been able to see is the difference between, $100,000 and wherever you fall within your risk versus return. Okay. So another thing though to keep in mind is, see this right here, this number 50 and this number 50. It means that right now there's currently 50 contracts available on the market. So let's say I wanted to purchase 100 contracts at $58. I would actually, let's say I spent $58 because that's the market's at, right? So I would spend $5,800 and my maximum profit would be $4,200. But there's only 50 on the market. Right? So what would happen was if I place this order, it would instantly fill the 50, but then I would have to wait until 50 more contracts were available for purchase. And then the system would automatically purchase them as they become available at the price I want them for. So another thing to keep in mind when you're playing around with it, just beware that sometimes if you want to buy like 200 contracts, it might not be available. So the market might actually be jumping around, and then you might actually fulfill the order over the course of a longer time that you'd want, let's say instantly, right? And you'll notice that sometimes that can be a pain when you're trying to short sell and you have too many and the market's not buying enough from you, right? So I'll explain that in a second as well. So let's go ahead and just for the sake of an example, let's go ahead and purchase a contract. Let's purchase our first contract. So we'll go ahead and we'll say $60, okay? So I'm going to place the order. So the market's at 59.5. So if you look at this, so it's processing the order. So the order was received, okay? So if you look right here, there's nothing in the open positions. But if you go up here and click on working orders, you'll notice that, unless it just got filled, which I believe it did, but we'll see, hold on. So working orders, if you don't see it in your open positions, you'll see it in your working orders. And your working orders means that either what you're trying to buy it or sell it for isn't available at the price you wanted yet, or there's not enough contracts available. So right now it already filled, so you won't see anything here. So if we go back to our open positions, you should see our contract. Okay, maybe it's lagging out. Okay, so I'll wait for that. Let's see, open positions. It should be right there. Okay. Where is it? Order history. Another thing to keep in mind is play around with these tabs. Get familiar with what you see in them. So right here it says that I purchased one contract of AUD JPY for a +1, meaning a call. So I believed it was going to be above 94.4 at the expiry. So we're going to go ahead and close this. And I don't know why it's not showing up here. Let me actually see what's going on. Sometimes this happens. Okay. Well, while we're waiting for this, look up here back at the price. Okay. So if you look at your account value versus your available balance, you'll see that sometimes these numbers are different. Right now, they're exactly the same. But what you'll see is sometimes it'll jump around. So if you look at your available balance, that means you have this much money left in your account to trade with. Okay. So you spent however much buying a contract or multiple contracts, and this is the amount that's left over, not including the money that's actually in play right now. So if you look at account value, you'll notice that this number will fluctuate with your contracts. So if you're losing money, you'll see that this might be negative, and if you're winning money, this might be positive. So this number might be higher than this number sometimes. But that doesn't mean much unless you actually sell your contract or you win the option trade. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh the Nadex account, and hopefully it'll pop up my my open position. So that's another thing to look for is in the accounts, the available balance and the account balance, because sometimes you'll see the available balance isn't, or not sometimes, but it'll never move unless you're making purchases or selling. And then if you look at, let's see. Okay, so now it says I have 25,000 again. Okay, interesting. Okay. Okay. So right now, if I look at the open position, it says that I have a open position of AUD JPY 94.4. So what it's saying is, if you look over here, sometimes you'll see your profit loss, or so profit, it's in the green, loss, it's red. So it'll have a negative next to it, and the profit will be green. So what happens is, if you look at it, we purchased the contract for $60. Okay. So what it's saying is that the current market is selling what we purchased for $44. So that means that we've lost $15.50, right? And I believe we purchased it at 59.5 actually. So this is telling you your position value. So even though we put $60 in, there's 45 in the account. Okay. So what this is it's saying that as you watch the market, this number will fluctuate according to the indicative. Okay, so depending on how much you're winning in the money or out of the money or close to the money, this number will fluctuate here. So this is short selling. Is, let's say we go ahead and see that this is in the green. Okay, what we would do is we would then re-click on our position, and you would sell it. Okay, since we purchased it, we would now have to sell it, right, to negative. So if you look at this, it says +1. How do you get rid of +1? You subtract 1. So if it's +1, you're selling. Okay, so we're selling 1, and we want to go ahead and sell it for, let's say, if we bought it for 60, let's say we want to sell it for 70. Okay, so what we're doing is we can now guarantee that we would make a $10 profit if the market over than the offer actually hit 70. So if it hit 70, then we would make a $10 profit, right? So we'd place the order, and then it wouldn't fill, obviously, until the market hit that value. So you don't have to wait till the end of the expiry. So if it says the expiry is in, 5 hours and 7 minutes, then, sometimes you don't want to wait for it. Sometimes you want to just take the money when you're in the green, and, it might not be as much, but you're going to be happy, right? So we spent $60, okay? So that means the most we could make is $40, because that's the difference between 60 and 100. So if we can make $40 at the end of the expiry, then, we got to be good in terms of we're above the strike rate that we said it would be above. If it's not, we lose $60. So if you're short selling, what you're doing is you're saying, hey, listen, I know I spent $60, but I'm okay with a $10, $20, $30, dollar profit. So I'm going to actually set my sell rate, what I want to sell my. So if you look at the working orders, you'll see that this order, let's see, where is it? It should pop up. Okay, so this order right here has not been filled yet, because we said the price is at 70. So the market is at 48.50, so it's not at 70, so it's not going to sell yet. But it's sitting there. So we no longer have to be at our computer waiting and like, okay, we're going to sell it, we're in the profit. You can just tell the computer and the platform that once the market hits 70, go ahead and sell it, and I'm cool with the $10 profit because I spent 60, right? So if you bought it for $50 and you sold it for 70, you'd make $20 profit for every contract you purchased, okay? So if you purchased 10 contracts at $50, you would spend $500, and the most you could make at the end of expiry was another $500, right? However, let's say you bought it at 50 and you said, I'm cool with selling it at 75, okay? Let's say the market shoots up, right? And you made a call and it hits $75 contract sell, even though you bought it for 50. It would instantly, right here on the working order, would go ahead and sell your position, and you would then make a $250 profit because you paid 50, you sold it for 75. That's a $25 difference, and you bought 10 of them. So 25 times 10 is 250. So you would have made $250. So if you waited till the end of expiry, you could have either made $500 or lost $500, or you could short sell it for whatever profit you're comfortable taking. Some people it's 100, some people it's $50. Some people, it's they don't want to short sell, they just want to wait till the expiry because they're so sure that it's gonna be in the money. And that's just how that works, right? So if you look over here at the account value, let's go ahead and close this working order. It says we're negative $12, right? $12.50. So if you look up here at the account value, you'll see that we have available to trade $24,938.70. But what's available is $24,986. Why is there a difference? Because basically what this is saying is we spent $60, right? Obviously a little more because, 25,000 minus 60 is not 938. But we spent this much money, right? And the reason why is because they get, a fee for purchasing and selling your orders, which, you can learn. I guess I could explain that. But it's how Nadex makes their money. Okay, but if you look at the account value, this is fluctuating, right? And this price fluctuates with the price of whatever money you have out there playing the field. So if we sold it right now, like for $45, this is how much money we would have in our account value, and then it would turn into an available account because this money is no longer in play. So basically what this is saying is $45 with the market's at, we spent 60, so we'd actually lose some money. And then if we sold it right now, then this is how much money we'd have. We'd actually be negative because we start out with 25,000. It'd obviously be below that. So all you're basically doing is it's another way to say, hey, listen, I know I'm going to lose this. It was a bad trade. Let me just sell it early, take my losses, but instead of losing everything, now I just lose a percentage of what I would have ultimately lost on, say, other trading platforms. So that's another cool thing with Nadex is you can sell early, whether you're in the profit or in the negative, and manage how much you make or lose. So that's pretty cool also. So another thing that I'm going to talk about now is the more confusing part of Nadex, which is the selling. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm just going to sell it now for whatever the market's trading at. Go ahead and take the loss. So if I click up my working order, again, you don't want to click on this and put in another order because you already have a working order. If you do that, you'll double up and you'll get confused. And then you'll be like, why am I losing money? Or why did I just make a bunch, right? Don't do that. So just go ahead and click on working orders and click on the one that's already currently open, okay? So let's say the market is trading, I believe, 42.50? Okay, so right now, if I were to sell it, it's selling for $44, okay? So let's go ahead and sell one for $44, and then we're going to amend the order. So you can delete it. Let's say you change your mind. You're like, you know what? I just want to keep it. I don't want to sell anything. Delete it, okay? Or you can amend it. Amending pretty much saying, hey, listen, I put in an initial order. I'm changing it up. Let's go ahead and save it. So this is like your save button. So you're amending the order. And now when the market goes back up to 43, it's going to automatically sell for me. Or 44, it's going to automatically sell for me. So now the market dropped. Okay, just sold. See, you can sell. It's sold at 44 once it hit it. There's no more open positions because they're all closed. This is my available account balance, which is 24,982. And then look, now they match again. And it's not fluctuating in the account value because there's no money being played in the field.